So good to catch up, Michael. And it seems a long time ago when we were in those mastermind groups and getting together every couple of months, having an Indian and trying to sort out what we were doing.
Yeah, it was a while back. It's good to see you.
Yeah. And you've been busy in the meantime. Business. You've been doing a lot of structuring in the business and stuff. And I don't know. Has COVID been good for you?
COVID's done for us is a little bit of time. I think what's give everybody is a bit of time, hasn't it, to really sort of focus on process and improving process in the business, and that's been really good. I mean, trading wise, we've traded through really well. We were fortunate to have quite a diverse portfolio, a number of care sites and sites, waste sites, and sort of critical sites basically that were we gained key worker status quite early on, and we were able to continue servicing pretty much throughout.
Yeah, no, it's that companies that have had that luxury have really done well through COVID, I think, because they've been able to provide a good service. But as you say, the time. I mean, we've done a lot of changes to our processes and tightened things up, and had the opportunity really to modify things completely. As you know, we were very heavily focused on hospitality, so we kind of hit a brick wall come March. But it's been good. I'm still here, still breathing, and we took the opportunity to change a lot of things. I always remember when we were in Mastermind, you telling me how you got into it. And explaining how you started off, because people might have perceptions of pest control, but your route into it is fascinating. So do you mind sharing that with everyone?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a different route, I suppose. So I started off my career, I guess, quite young. I was doing film studies at sort of Durham College, and I just sort of film and media type studies, and I happened to meet the location managers on Harry Potter. They then invited me to set, and within an hour I'd been offered a job, and I was planning moving to London to become a sort of full-time animal trainer apprentice and learn the ropes. So that was that's where my sort of career with the falcons started and the birds of prey started. So I did that for a couple of years and went to various countries and did lots of different film work and worked with all different animals, which was pretty cool. And following from there, when I was down there, I actually just met a guy locally who was flying birds of prey also, and I introduced him to the studios, and I used to help him out at weekends, and that's kind of my introduction to pest control. When I moved back up in the northeast, sort of 17 years ago, and we set up Contego and pushed on from there.
Yeah, I love that story. Oh, it's great. Yeah, you go down to work on films, and you end up rat catching.
I know. I don't know what went wrong.
It's done you proud. So I mean, yeah, it's good. So 17 years you've been in business, yeah?
Yes, so we started in 2004. Yeah, so it's it doesn't feel like that long, but it's but yeah, 17 years this year.
Yeah, fantastic. And what's the range of services that you provide? Because pest control can be quite varied, can't it? I mean, there's lots of pests out there, and
yeah. So we initially, when the business was formed or started, it was all around bird control. That was my background, obviously, with the falcons and the hawks, and we specialised in bird control, but quite quickly moved into general pest control, like general pest control services.
Yeah.
And now we basically cover every type of pest for every type of client right across the country. It's quite amazing, really, how far we've come.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's good. And what is your geographical spread? It's nationwide.
It's literally everywhere.
Yeah,
it's literally everywhere. We've got sites right up on Stornoway and the islands, all the way down into Penzance and everywhere in between.
Yeah.
So we're literally covering the whole of the UK now with service delivery. Yeah, we got there. It took a while for us to get there, but we're very much there now.
Yeah, yeah. No, well, I know that you've got a sort of a big vision, and which is great, and it's always difficult. Well, not always, but it can be difficult to relate where one is today to where you want to get to, can't it? You know, there's like a gap. You can see the gap, but it's how do you take the baby steps along the way to do it right, so that you actually, when you get there, it doesn't all wobble and fall over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, you know what I'm like. I'm a big vision, kind of big. I just think everything's possible, and I think if you want it enough, and you engage the team and you work together, and I think it's the cohesiveness and having everybody sort of really on the same page, really pushing. I actually think that's really what makes us sort of different, and what sort of underpins the business. People say, how have you grown to that size, and it's really, I think it's about investing in people, and people investing in the business as well, and I think that's the thing that underpins it all, to be honest.
Yeah, but people will only invest in it if they can relate to the leader's vision, won't they? I mean, that and that's where you come in. You've got to have that vision, be able to communicate it clearly as well, so that people can, so that they can relate to it and say, yeah, actually, you know what, that is achievable.
Yeah, and we're very, I think you can probably tell I'm quite laid back and open and transparent. I don't really mess about. People know exactly where they stand. From the northeast, we don't really have a filter with a lot of things, but it's good. I think it helps people. Everybody knows where they stand. We want to progress people. We want to help people. We want to grow forward, and I think that people can see that, and they can see the rewards of it quite quickly. So it works. Yeah, it works.
Yeah, no, good. So in terms of your surveyors and your technicians, what standards do they have to work to? Are there standards in your industry, and do they differ per sector that you have to deal with, or is there a sort of an overarching set of rules?
Yeah, the overarching sort of minimum is sort of a level 2 in pest control, RSPH level 2, and we've got quite a lot of accredited technicians, which is the next step up from that. And that's where we aim to be. We want to push everybody through to accredited technician standard. Just looking for that higher. When we employ, we try to employ problem solvers rather than just bait box checkers. Yeah. We're looking for people who can really get the root cause of problems. We focus on first time fix a lot, which I think is really important for the client. I think it's something that a lot of customers, a lot of pest control companies don't necessarily do, because more visits equals more money generally.
Yeah.
Well, we take the other view is that we need to reduce client risk, so we need to fix the problem. So if there's a small hole that needs to be filled with some mouse stop, we get it filled. From a business point of view as well, I can understand some of the huge companies in the industry where route density and more call outs and more visits they've got the density there of technicians. Well, for us, it's important that we fix the problem, because traveling half an hour or an hour to a site just costs us money.
Yeah.
So solving it the first time's a better business for us, and it reduces the risk for the client as well.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting, because that's an area where we're totally aligned. It's like, okay, well, what's the best outcome for the client, and then how can I deliver it? Not the other way around. It's always client first every time.
It's a partnership. I mean, especially with pest control, there needs to be a partnership. We structure our reports in a very sort of kind of different way to most as well. So we're looking at areas of pest risk and what the actions are, then recommendations off the back of it. We're assigning the risk or assigning the action to the client or to Contego, and it's very much about having the buy-in and the partnership approach. When the customer understands that actually if I get some bungs for the bottom of the bins and we stop the rats getting in the bins, or we clean up the waste on the floor in the kitchen or the bin store, then the chances of pest risk just go right down. You know, the risk level just drops significantly.
Absolutely.
Once you've got that working, it works. You know, right across the estate, you see percentage of infestations just plummeting.
Yeah.
Which is great all round because we don't have call outs and you don't have pests.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and you're earning your money then, because there's so many companies that they'll underprice a contract just to get it, knowing that they'll make extra on the incremental visits.
Yeah.
And, we see that when people tender, because we ask them to specifically mention what pests they're going to cover. Because it's important. Different industries have different requirements. So I mentioned about hospitality before. Fireflies is a big issue in the hospitality industry, and food flies. So we focus on that, because there will be people who will quote for hospitality clients and exclude those, so that they charge extra when they go in to resolve the problem. It's madness. It just doesn't help anyone.
And the main thing with fruit flies, it's a hygiene recommendation.
Yeah.
It's literally a hygiene recommendation. If the technician was recommending, cleanups covering the taps at the end of the day, making sure that was being carried out, you reduce the risk of the fruit flies by just a huge percentage.
Yeah.
No,
absolutely. So it's interesting with your reporting and how you're telling the client what to do. Presumably you run into the same problem that we do, though, which when you're dealing at a senior level in a business, people get what you're trying to do, and it's not a problem. But when it actually comes down to working operationally with a client, you're dealing with someone in a whatever it might be, premises, and they just don't want to do it, and that puts the onus back on you. Do you then take on the responsibility for what they should do as much as you can, or how do you deal with that side of it?
Yeah, there's a sort of element of contract management there, isn't there, in communication with site staff and all levels. It very much depends, really. So depending on if there's something that's blatantly obvious, like picking some loose food up from under a unit that's really stopping the mice from going into traps, for example, then of course we'll just get on and do it. If there's something we can't do, then we just need to escalate that and go forward. We also built sort of a custom built portal as well, so they make it very transparent. I think that what most people or a lot of businesses don't do, they're just not transparent anymore. It's all smoke and mirrors, and you're not sure whether he's going to go and look at this problem and charge you $2,000 or come back with it and just do it for free. And we've tried to make everything very transparent, and in the portal as well, you can see exactly where the risk is, all your photographs. It almost gives the client an overview and another management tool on their behalf to manage their sort of the RFMs and stuff.
Yeah. So the regional managers and the operations directors, they can all, depend on their access, they can all see that.
Yeah, they can. Yeah, exactly. Just depend on access. So the site's got sites. Regional managers might have that. Head might have everything.
Yeah. And how soon after a visit do those photos get uploaded into the portal?
Instantly. I think the again is transparency. So we don't. It's as soon as the technician finishes, it's gone. There's no sort of double checking that and make sure we're not dropping ourselves in it. It's straight off, and they're up in the portal. You can view them. And it gives you alerts. So if we've gone from a low risk to high risk, it tells you.
I was just going to ask that. Okay.
It alerts people straight up the chain.
Yeah.
And them alerts can be related to us. It could be a Contego action. We haven't done this, and it's gone. It's made the site high risk. They're seeing exactly that, and that's fine by me. I mean, I like that.
Yeah.
Keeps everybody.
Isn't it? That honesty, though, it's just missing so much. And I could talk for an hour just on that, but it's so important, because we all mess up. Yeah, it happens. Yeah, we all mess up at some stage. And when we do, it's good to put your hand up and say, yeah, look, you know what, we messed up, but this is what we're going to do to correct it. And
exactly. It's how you react when you mess up, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I think at one of the events we were at, actually, he said that if you do mess up, it's okay, because it's actually, you're 80% less likely or 90% less likely to ever lose the client. Obviously, if you handle it in the correct way.
Yeah.
Where if you never mess up, then the client never actually gets to see how you react when there's a problem.
Yeah.
So then then things only become down to cost and not the real service side.
Well, and I think it's interesting, because I think there's also a correlation here between, in terms of that, because by messing up, it's probably because someone, in my business, someone's kind of gone out of the norm, and they've tried to do something which wasn't processed. It wasn't in our process, and because they've done that, they might have caused another problem. But it's only because they've been trying to help the client and do what's best for the client. Whereas if all people do is go down a bunch of a tick list and go down the list and say, yeah, I did that, I did that, I did that, I did that, that's not really adding value to the client, because they're not looking outside of the box.
No, exactly. And it's like you say, it's always about how you respond, isn't it? A missed visit, making sure you get there straight away.
Yeah.
It's how you react. It's definitely how you react when you're on site. Not. It gets me a little bit sometimes when clients focus on, a 99 or 100% KPIs being hit. Where it's a 4-hour call out. It's 2 a.m. It's fair enough, and the guy gets there. He gets there at 5 o'clock, but there was no further call outs because he got there. He spent 2 hours. He found the hole. He filled the hole. He caught the mouse.
Yeah.
To me, that's good service. Obviously you want to hit the 4 hours, but if you're half an hour late and you do that, where I think sometimes there can be a focus on, yeah, but you were late, and they would almost view another supplier who hit the 4 hours, but then had 22 follow-ups over the next has been the most successful.
I know. And
I just don't understand that, but it's we do live in a bit of a KPI driven world at the moment.
Yeah, interesting, because we, as a result of those masterminds, I've had people who I've turned around and said, no, I'm not going to deal with you. Not old Sue's kicking in there. I've got people who I won't deal with. We had one client where they wanted us to move the earth for them. This was on electricity. They had a right mess. They had 30 odd sites. It's a small PLC. They had 30 odd sites. All of them had different contracts all over the place, different suppliers, some with meter reads, some without meter reads, a complete and utter mess. And we can sort that out, not a problem. But they've just got to give us time to sort it out. And we were doing that. We were sorting it out. We were getting on with it. But then they wouldn't pay our bills. And we only charge on a gain share. We charge. If you were paying this price and you're now paying that price, we'll charge on the difference between the two. We take a percentage of that. So it has to be a benefit to them. But their mindset, their whole culture was that every supplier's out to screw them. Doesn't matter who they are. We don't have partnerships. It's all about getting screwed. And we'll just take the piss out of the suppliers. And I just said, sorry, we're not aligned. We're not on the same page here. So we're not going to deal with you. And they couldn't believe it. They thought, what, you're going to walk away? Yeah, I'm walking away. Goodbye, thank you. And that was it. Do you have situations like that?
Absolutely. I had it with a major retailer just I think 2 weeks ago, and I just you sort of, yeah, you're thereabouts, yeah, we can, and it just got to the point, and it was just more and more and more and more. They were wanting, and can you do this, and then can you include all this, but there was no thought about what they've got currently that doesn't work.
Yeah,
you've got a contract in place to the minute of, I don't know, say 100,000, and then but you're spending 280,000 because of all the ad hoc. So we restructured things and looked at, or just a general. I'm just making the numbers up, but we'd restructured the whole as a better option, saying this is what it'll be. But it sometimes customers don't understand it, and that's fine. I mean, sometimes you got to understand. I think from a procurement point of view as well, you've got different pots, so they're doing their job by reducing the PPM value.
Yeah.
But they've actually got a multi-million-pound maintenance budget that they can take all of the ad hoc spend from. So, I mean.
Don't get me on budgets. That just does, man. Oh yeah, no, I can't spend it here. But then you see them wasting money somewhere else. Oh well, yeah, it's a different budget. That's all right.
Different budget, it's fine. Yeah, it's fine.
It's mad.
Yeah, it is crazy. Yeah.
It's interesting actually, because so we sort of got this slogan, intelligent cost control, and that's where it comes from, because I did some work with a guy years ago. We're only a small business, so I tend to buy in resource to help me and to drive me, because it can be a bit lonely out there sometimes. So this guy came in. He said, "Yeah, but what? You don't do cost control." He said, "What you're doing, you're adding real value, because you're looking at the issues and you're trying to come up with the best solution for the client. You don't care. You just want the best solution for the client, and you work on the basis that everything else will follow on from that." And we do. You know, my longest client, we've been going 17 years. My longest client's been with us 14 years. So it's interesting actually. We've both been in business about the same amount of time. Doing these things. So, but my longest client's been with me 14 years, and I've got a bunch of clients who've been with us over 10 years. And that to me is what it's all about. And you know, if we got contracts where, you know, we lose money for a few months, but then we make some money after, so what? I just want to give the client the right solution. And if we lose money, then either we've done something wrong, you know, in terms of how we looked at the project because we didn't cost it up right, or actually that's just how it goes, and sometimes you do and sometimes you don't, and as long as you come out on the right side more often than not, then happy days. But it is, you know, this whole thing with budgets and looking so myopically, and the KPIs, and oh yeah, you know, are you going to get there, you know, like you said, are you going to get there within 4 hours? Yeah, okay, yeah, we will, right, and that's it. But then they get 22 visits rather than one visit that's half an hour late, and you get penalized for that. I mean, it's mad, absolutely bonkers.
It's mad, but you know, you've got to strive to deliver it though, haven't you, still?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Anyway, we're going off at a tangent there. So in terms of what have I got down here? Yeah, rodent access. So we're down south. You know, we're southern shandy drinkers. So where we get the in London, there's a lot of rats because of the Thames and all the rivers which feed into that. A lot of which are covered up, but they're running underground. So you're never far from a rat in London, which is a lovely thing to know. So in terms of that, how do you deal with that? If a client says, "Okay, I've got a new site, Michael, can you come in and proof it for me?" Mm-hmm. What's the process for that?
It's basically getting to the fabric of the building. First of all, we've got say if they had an internal rat infestation, we'd be looking at not just internally but looking externally, looking at drains, looking at the drainage system. We've got teams with drain cameras, so we do drain camera surveys for pest activity. So we're looking for breaks in pipes which are creating ingress points. Yeah, we'll be looking externally, obviously, at all of the pipe work coming in, looking up the walls as well, not just at low level, because rats will climb walls absolutely quite as easy as walking along a pavement. And then internally we'd be looking in voids, you know, even cutting holes in voids. You know, with the client's permission, we'll say, you know, there's activity coming through here. We need to get some access panels in the walls. Yeah. So we'll get access panels. We'll be into the walls. We're into the ceiling. We're looking for pipe work coming through. We're looking for from the cellars often, you know, from the taps and things and the bar taps. They're great mice runs. You know, they're perfect for mice, straight up.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah, there's holes around them, aren't there? They make the holes bigger than the pipes. So
always. So that's where we'd start by just basically taking the building to bits and looking, photographing, and then costing it up and getting it proofed.
Yeah.
I mean, that can be steel plates, mesh, excluded guards. We don't tend to use bristle strips. You see a lot of places use bristle strips on the bottoms of doors, and they're just rubbish. The mice or rats just chew straight through them within a day, especially if you've got an infestation. So anybody coming recommending bristle strips is just literally wants just basically charging you for the sake of charging you.
Yeah, and they'll be back because they'll get eaten through, and there'll be an infestation. Then they'll charge you for the repeat visits.
There's better solutions on the market with mesh built into them now and things. I think it's just looking for the better solution and not offering the ones. We don't even offer bristle strips. We just, customers put them in the contract and say, well, we're not going to install them because they don't work.
Yeah. What about those sticky strips that people used to use, like like glue boards?
Glue boards. Occasionally, it's a tool in your chest, isn't it? It's not the route that we like to go down. We'd much rather get the root of the problem using contact rodenticides and traps and sort of getting on top of the problem. But obviously, it's a tool in the war chest if required.
Yeah. And what about if someone has a situation where they know there's an infestation, but they can't work out what it is? Yeah, or you can't work out. Initially, when your technicians go to site, they can't. There's no droppings. They can't see what it is. How do you deal with that sort of situation?
We've got escalation managers in place, sort of senior technicians, problem solvers. Been with us a long time and all a long time in the industry. We'll send the guys in or the girls in equally, and they'll take we just take the building apart. I think the key, it's investigation. It's more of an audit. I mean, I see it as more of a data company than a pest control. We're a pest control company. Pest control's a solution. What we do is we gather data and make it easy for the customers to make decisions based upon the data we're finding.
Right.
That's what we're actually delivering.
Yeah.
Is data. And if we, the way we display that data and the way we make it easy for the customers to action that data reduces their risk and brand risk and pest risk and ultimately protects the business, doesn't it?
Well, absolutely, and also it increases their understanding. If you present that data in the right way, it gives them a really clear understanding. Because what you can do, you can distill all of this huge amount of data, and you can distill that down into ideally into an A4 sheet, which says, right, here's your overview. There's all the detail is behind it for them, for those that want to see that. But if you're it's interesting actually, because I never thought of our businesses as being similar, but you're right. The data is key to it, and that's the key to our business. People when we start dealing with a client, we do ask for a lot of information. Typically we get a letter of authority so that we can speak to the supplier and get the information from the supplier, but obviously we need to know who the suppliers are and that sort of stuff. So initially there's quite a bit of information, but then what that enables us to do is give them absolute clarity on where they are in terms of when their contracts end, what prices they're paying, what their annual spend is, and the FD can then check that back to their the P&L for the previous year and say, yeah, it's about right, or we're not sure about that. Maybe there's some seasonality in the figures we looked at, but data is key. And then we look to present that, break it down and distill it. Once we've done the tenders and we've got the prices in and we've matched off that people are doing what we want them to do, we can break that down into a single A4 sheet. And I guess you can do the same. And that is so powerful.
I think it's the same here in what it says behind your investment value. Yeah. If we want a client to spend money on a solution, we've got to give them value, and it's the same, same for you. You're giving them the data and understanding. There you go. We're going to create value. You're creating value, and we're we're showing value in the work that we carry out. It's
absolutely, and we both operate in areas that no one really wants to look at as well, don't we?
Yeah.
We're never going to be high on the CEO's list of people to talk to, because there's no glamour in what you do or what we do.
No.
But yeah, no.
Pest Control pretty sexy, to be fair.
Well, that's because of your falcons and stuff, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, well, exactly.
They're one piece. Have you still got some? Are you still breeding, or have you stopped that?
I've got a lot. I've got a lot of falcons. I've probably got close to 200 falcons in my house.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just that's a hobby and a passion and a way of life. It's not really anything different, It's just part of I do, Before I put on this morning, I was in the garden prepping for the guys that come and look after the birds. I've got sort of helpers at home now as well, just to keep on top of everything. So I was out there moving birds and trimming beaks and everything. Is sort of 7 o'clock this morning.
Yeah. Did you find that? Is that your sort of escape route? Do you find that relaxing and something to focus on that takes your mind, clears your mind?
No way, joke. Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. It gives us some. It's I just I've done it so long. I started with birds of prey when I was sort of 11 years old. So I've just always, it's just always been a part of my life, really.
Yeah, good. So what else have I got down on my list? I've got here. I wanted to ask you if clients can access the historic inspection reports online, but I'm guessing from what you're saying with your portal that's just a piece of cake. They're there, not only can they access them, they're there immediately that you've been to a site.
They can go all the way back. They've got it breaks it down as well. So we break the risk elements down as well, so you don't have to filter through the report if you don't want to. You can it just highlights them bits, but you can also click on that and view the whole report as well. You can go back, view cost data, view risk assessments, view all your document folders. We've created the folder online, basically.
Yeah.
I mean, some customers have the folders still, which that's up to them. I don't see the point, but that's just, we've got to give the customer what they need, and sometimes they like to know where to go and pick it up.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's automatically emailed, it's automatically uploaded, it goes out straight away, so it's right in front of them at all times, dead easy to access.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Everything needs to be easy, doesn't it?
Well, exactly. It's got to be easy. It's got to be. Everyone's got to be able to understand it. From the director down to the person on the shop floor, through all the levels of operations. People have got to be able to understand it, and they've got to understand what their responsibility in it is as well.
Exactly.
To make it work. So interesting, very interesting.
Well, it does from an overview, from a sort of overview point on a group side, is it allows somebody with 100 sites or 200 sites, actually, 99% of them sites aren't an issue. So why do we even want to look at them?
Yeah.
Like from their point of view, why do they want it? But they absolutely want to know about that site there that's got mice in the kitchen, or it's seen a rat in the kitchen, or inside, outside. That's what they need to know. So it's making it very easy for them to, at a high level, to overview everything as well. I think that's been quite key to sort of part of the development as well.
Yeah. No, good for you. Excellent. That's great. You got anything you want to ask? You want to fire at me? I've been doing a lot. I've been firing a lot of questions at you.
You were talking anyway. I was kind of interested from a procurement point of view in how you go about looking for procurement services. How do you find a supplier? How do you go, actually, I'm going to find X number of suppliers, and then what do you do? How does it work?
It's good question. So I've over the years, I've been I'm sounding like an old wrinkly now, but I've been in business over 40 years. Over that time, I built up a network, a good network of people who I work with. And in this business, which I've been doing for 17 years, I've got people who I trust. And when I say trust, what I mean is that we've explained a problem that a client has to them. They've stepped in and they've resolved that problem. So that's good. But to get to that stage is difficult, and there has to be a bit of judgment, really, because lots of people will say they can do it. There's no salesman in the world who won't say, oh yeah, we can do that. But then it's whether they actually can. So we get approached quite frequently by people, all different areas. So, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you do the other? We keep all the records. We keep all of them on file. We've got a someday maybe file, and there's a section there for suppliers, and we just put them in there. And then, as and when we get a requirement, we'll kind of give them a bone. So depends on the area, but usually we'll give them an opportunity to look at and just see what their response is. So we do that. Ideally we do that with a deal that we've already closed, and we tell them that. We say, look, this is one. There's no business in this. We just want you to look at it and come back to answer the questions and come back to us with your responses, so we can tell you what's right and wrong. And it varies by product category. So probably the most difficult one for us is consumables. So by consumables, I mean stuff like stationery, kitchen consumables in the hospitality business. It might be medical consumables in the medical business. So consumables is potentially the most difficult area for us. And the reason it's difficult is because, number one, there's a lot of own brand, and number two, the products might be similar, but they're not the same. So we break it down into 14 different categories, if you like. Each product we break down. So we've got the brand, we've got the size, the height, the width, the depth. If it's a container, what the capacity is, the color, what material it's made from. I mean, just 14 different areas. So for a pencil, for example, a pencil will be 7 areas. That's what it. That's how we break it down. And by doing that breakdown, when we're asking the suppliers to quote, we measure them on their match rate. How many of the items that they've quoted do they match? And we check each one. So we often have clients with 500-600 items on these reports. So if we go out to 4 suppliers, that's 2,400 items we got to check, and we check them individually. So my team have large screens, and what they do, they put the 2 websites up side by side, and they're looking at the products to match them off side by side. So we do tests there. In your sort of area where it's predominantly service driven, we'll look for referrals. We'll look to talk to similar clients. So when I say similar clients, I'm looking at the number of properties and the sector that they're in. We'll talk to them, because it's a lot riskier for us in a service sector, because once we sign the contract, we're committed. And if there's a lot of cost for us in managing that contract, the contract compliance, which is a key part of our service, we're in it with the client because we only charge in arrears. There's no upfront charges, nothing like that. We only charge in arrears for our service. So if the service hasn't been provided, the client ultimately has the option to say, actually, you know what, bugger you, I'm not paying you. So contract compliance is key to us, and it comes back to that value we were talking about before, about the honesty and the transparency and the openness, because we would have only gone into the contract thinking that the supplier could do what they say they'll do, but if they don't, then fundamentally they've been dishonest with us. So that morally causes me a problem, but practically it causes me a problem in the business as well. So we'll take out references. We'll look to meet people senior in the business. Oh, let me just stop that. We'll look to meet people senior in the business so that we understand more than just the salespeople. So we'll look to meet at least a director, ideally the CEO. Doesn't always happen, depends on the size of organization, but we'll certainly look to meet someone who we can escalate to, so that we have an understanding of what the escalation process is within that organization. And whenever we enter into a new arrangement for a client, we always get an escalation chart as part of the tender process. So when they submit their pricing, we say, right, what's the escalation process? Show us your org chart. So I mean, those are the things we do. To be honest, price. Everyone thinks that price is the most important thing, and it really isn't. Price. My view is that if we do our job right, the price just drops out from that. Yeah, if we do our job right and we get the clients, we understand what the client wants and we understand what the supplier can provide, so that we're looking at the product quality. We're looking at the service level, we're looking at the payment terms. If we get all those things right and aligned 100%, then actually the price just drops out, because there is a price to provide that service. And what I love is when we do the exercise, I gave an example before, 4 suppliers, we might go out to 6 or 7 suppliers. And what will happen is we'll have one who's dirt cheap. We'll have 3 or 4 in the middle who are all within a few percent of each other. And then we'll have 1 or 2 who are really expensive. Well, the expensive ones obviously don't want the business, or they're not well suited to it. The cheap one is a bit too desperate, so we wouldn't deal with them. So we always go for the middle ones. And people think that we're only ever going to go for the cheapest. We never, that's not always true. We rarely go for the cheapest supplier, because there'll be hidden costs and it's just not worth it. We try to understand what those costs are. So when we do the tendering process, we go into a huge amount of detail in terms of what's actually required. And we're able to do that because right at the beginning of our process, before we even look at invoices, we talk to operations and we understand from the ops teams what they require. What does utopia look like? And if they tell us what utopia looks like, my job's to go off and deliver that.
Yeah, you find the pain points and tick them off one by one.
Absolutely. And if we can help them and resolve them, usually they've been going on for a long time, and they've modified their business to accept that. Well, that's just added cost to my client's business, which is madness. So we're looking to take all of that out, and we when it comes to billing, that's an area where we save people fortunes. We don't take any benefit from that. We only take a share of the unit price savings. But when it comes to finance, the finance departments, what we'll do there, we'll typically get one supplier. So rather than having a bunch of suppliers, I mean, you must see this where they've got one contractor in one region, another contractor in another region. What a nightmare. Whose arse are they going to kick when there's a problem? So we get one supplier, one end date for the contracts. If there's new sites come on board, they're added in, but the contract still ends. All the contracts end on the same date. And that, by having the one invoice per month broken down by cost center, that saves their finance department fortunes, in terms of processing invoices. And they've only got one payment to make as well.
Yeah, cool. Should we
not that passionate about it.
They don't make, Cool. Should we wrap it up and?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Thank you very much. Good idea. Appreciate you asking me.
No problem. Thanks. We'll chat up soon.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Take care. Thanks, Mike.
Cheers. Bye.
You well.